Typically, when it comes to making your own business in some way, shape, or form, which is one of the great things about being a business owner, separate from, for example, being an employee. When you're not working, you're basically not earning money. And so when you create a business, obviously the goal is eventually to get what is referred to as passive income, which is just basically income that you receive basically when you're not working, right? It's achieved for the most part passively. Like, for example, maybe you invest in a company, like, for example, on the New York Stock Exchange, and that company pays you a dividend either every month or every quarter or once a year, etc. And so you just basically put that money into the company, and then they pay you a little bit of a dividend basically for holding the company, and that's basically passive income. You could utilize, for example, YouTube. You can make videos and earn AdSense. You could, for example, be a someone who is on Twitch, and maybe you make build videos or guides, and you have your own website. And as a result of people coming to your website, you'll get ad revenue when people come to your website. And those are different ways that you can earn passive income. Now, the person that we're going to be talking to in this video is actually doing that exact same thing. And this is a man who is named Tim Stokely, who is a British tech entrepreneur. And as it says there, he is the founder and CEO of Onlyfans. And so the way that he's chosen to basically earn his passive income is by monopolizing women's desire to remain single and sexualized. And so for the most part, we've heard, I think back in 2018 and 19, there was always this narrative of men sexualizing women, and catcalling, whistling to them on the street, and that we needed to view women more for what they brought to the table from a mental standpoint. And of course, what we see today is actually very different, where overwhelmingly we're seeing a larger number of women who are basically utilizing OnlyFans as a way to change their life from the whole 9 to 5. OnlyFans has gotten much more popular now because of the pandemic. And I created a video not too long ago talking about how westernized women are going to be made more comfortable when it comes to prostitution because of the collapse of America. And if you don't think America is collapsing, you're going to be in for a surprise. Due to the pandemic, and more importantly, due to the monetary policies that have been put forth, more than likely we are going to witness America collapse probably within, let's say, maybe the next 8 years, where America will no longer be the global superpower that it has long enjoyed. And as a result, many Americans, but primarily women, are going to be impacted as a result, and the quality of life is going to dramatically be lowered. The reason that I mentioned this is because I've spent quite a few years having the opportunity to travel. My goal was to move out of America because it was very obvious what was going to happen, especially talking with other men who have lived in Latin America or in other parts of the world. And typically for many of these men, they realize, as they say, they saw the writing on the wall of the collapse and have made lives for themselves in other areas where they've been able either to have a significant relationship with someone else and have families. In America, that isn't really possible for the average man, and I don't recommend it for the average man, especially if you're a man of means. There's no point. There's way too much risk, especially when a lot of times the average female is basically prostituting herself in some way, shape, or form. And of course, that impairs their ability to pair bond. And so, of course, this is primarily designed with a purpose, with the push of course, educating women. The birth rate in many Western countries has basically fallen. There was a video I saw not too long ago on CNN with Elon Musk talking about the global impact of, let's say, depopulation, where they're not seeing a high birth rate. I'll probably play that video at some point.
We should be concerned about demographic implosion.
Why do you say that?
So if you look at countries like Japan, most of Europe, China, and you look at the birth rates in a lot of those places is only at about half of the sustaining rate. When you have an inverted demographic pyramid, so if you look at the pyramid and you've got age variation, 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 20-year-olds, like sort of a demographic pyramid.
Right.
And in some countries, it's like an upside-down pyramid, so it'll sort of fall over. It will not stand. What we'll actually have in those countries is a very high dependency ratio, where the number of people who are retired is very high relative to the number of people who are net producers. And so you cannot, the social safety net will not hold. We didn't evolve for this because we sort of evolved to just always procreate, and there wasn't birth control or anything.
Right.
We just like have lots of babies. It's like pop the course and like hopefully some of them would survive. That was like all of human history until very recently. And now it's, you've got cases like Japan where adult diapers outsell baby diapers. Europe's in a similar situation. China's headed the same way because they've had the one-child policy, and then even though they've relieved the one-child policy, the social norm has become to have an average of one kid. So even when they relieved that requirement, it didn't change. You can imagine, like people sometimes say, well, what about immigration? It's like, okay, look, there's 1.5 billion people in China. Where is China going to get 700 million new people? Okay, that's like 3 Indonesias. It's like, it doesn't work. And the full gravity of this is not well understood, but will become a severe issue in the next few decades.
And of course, this is something that is concerning to many scientists, as basically the population is going down, and the overwhelming contributing factor to basically the depopulation of the earth is mostly linked to female education. And according to Drake University, it says, why would educating women lower birth rates? It says there is a strong link between increased levels of education for females and lower fertility. That is, the higher the level of a woman's education attainment, the fewer number of children she is likely to bear. And this effect is shown in countries and cultures around the world. And this is overwhelmingly in any community, in any country that adopts westernized culture. Westernized culture is a cancer that should be fought to the greatest extent possible. And so this video, basically what we're going to touch on is the pyramid scheme of OnlyFans. So basically the way it works is obviously the CEO and those at the top basically have kind of like a pimp, right? You send out your women, and the difference is that from a pimp's standpoint, you can only send out your women locally. And of course, you always got to worry about police officers. You have to worry about whether or not they're going to get roughed up, meeting the wrong John. But as a pimp, you can offer some form of protection. And that's basically what Tim Stokely is. He's just an online pimp. And of course, the women that are working underneath him get protection via the website, some sort of anonymity. There's of course protection from being hacked, etc. Right? But it's still basically the same process of pimping women for the purpose of creating for yourself a passive income. And underneath those many layers, as women in essence start to age out, they start to move up in the ring, kind of like a madam. So you remember, like, I forget who that lady is that worked with Epstein, and she was basically the recruiter. She recruited a lot of these young women, and more you will see that on social medias, like for example on YouTube, which is what we're going to cover. Just a brief video. Now, this is a person who is a YouTuber with 1.6 million YouTube subscribers. This video that was posted in February 20th of 2020 now has 1.4 million views. And especially, like I said, in relation to C-19 and the economic impact as a result, there was someone who, of course, made that same exact observation, where she said, "Who else is here? Because we got no jobs. Screw this virus," right? And of course, she got 7.9K likes, and that is the result of many women, because instead of attaching themselves early on to a man and then of course building a life with that individual, many of these young women have opted to stay single. And of course the government basically props them up with some sort of a job that's basically like pseudo welfare. And of course most of those resources that are utilized to put this individual to work basically comes from productive men, primarily in this country overwhelmingly white men. And so a lot of those resources are stripped from men and then subsequently given to women. And as a result, when you have economic downturns, overwhelmingly many of these jobs that are very low paying are impacted. And overwhelmingly, these women end up out of work. That's seen typically in, for example, city jobs. You have individuals like AOC who earn 174,000 a year, who literally do absolutely nothing. But she's there because she's a young, pretty face, and culturally, she can draw in many young Latinas as a result of the propaganda that she has utilized to spew. And of course, many become impacted, which is why you see her, for example, on things like Twitch, where she now basically utilizes Twitch to grab the youth and to, of course, to fill their heads with propaganda. And this, like most societies that have gone this route, always end in collapse. And for many men who for many men who have the opportunity, I encourage you to have some sort of a skill, whether you're a plumber or electrician, maybe you do demo or woodwork, to have some sort of a skill that, of course, that you can utilize when the time comes to leave America. I'm working on my exit currently, hopefully within the next year or so. Looking to buy some property overseas, just do some online trading, and live off passive income from investments. But this video is going to go in depth on, as it says here, how I make money on OnlyFans, tips and tricks. Got 56K likes.
Hi guys, it's me, Lena the Plug. Today's video is a little bit different. I really didn't think I would make this video ever, but it just kind of occurred to me like this is probably pretty useful information. So I decided that I would create this video. It's probably going to be a little bit all over the place because I didn't write my thoughts down. Well, I wrote some of them down, but I feel like things are just going to come to me as I go. So if you're interested in selling content online, I would grab a paper and a pen so that you can take some notes. This video is probably not going to get monetized, so a thumbs up would really just help me with my reach overall.
And as you can see, just looking at her, she does look like she's a bit older, probably in her upper 20s. She does look like she's a couple of wrinkles, as you can see, the wrinkles around the face and by the eyes indicating her age. So she's not that fresh 18, 19, 20-year-old. At least she doesn't look it. I've never seen this person before, and I just came across the video, took a look at it, thought it would be interesting. Now, what you're going to hear within the video, of course, is one, how much cut this individual gets as a result. You know, like for example, YouTube AdSense takes a percentage. If you're on Twitch, you know, all these companies take a huge percentage, which is why OnlyFans is somewhat more popular, because it takes probably, I think, the least percentage from what you get in terms of your revenue. But what it also allows in essence, for many of these women who have basically been in the game, she's been in the game, she says, for about 4 years, it allows them also to monetize the women who come underneath them, right? Just like kind of like a madam that works for the pimp. She's able to show the young ones coming in ropes.
Making adult content online and selling it since 2016. So I'm in my 4th year of doing it. Every year has just gotten better and better. The market for it is not going anywhere. People want to buy adult content. But that being said, like, if you want to sell.
And that's why I said for many young women that many young women will be getting used to this sort of work. If you're not paying attention to what's going on in the country, there really isn't going to be as many jobs as there were before. And so women will have to find other avenues of how to support themselves, because the narrative in the country, especially for men, is to stay away from women. More and more men, of course, are avoiding relationships, marriage, long-term relationships, because it's just not worth it. And many men of means, of course, are being taken advantage of by means of the state with false accusations, or they've gotten into relationships and as a result end up going through divorce, child support, etc. So more women will end up being on their own, living on their own. And of course, when they're young, they think that that lifestyle of living on easy street will basically be around forever, until of course the wall hits, and then the state is basically there to extract more resources from men to basically prop many of these women up. But that only lasts for so long.
Any sort of content, I think that there's probably a set of people online who want to buy it, depending on the quality of it and how big your reach is. But I'm gonna focus today's video on OnlyFans. So basically OnlyFans is a website, onlyfans.com, where you can make a profile and sell your content. You'll get a special link that you can link to all your other social media and promote a place where people can subscribe to see your content. They will handle the payment processing and they take 20%, which I think is pretty fair from all the different percentages that I've been exposed to over the last 4 years. That seems to be pretty fair and pretty standard and generally pretty low compared to what.
Now, 20% is actually quite high. I remember back in the days when I worked for a prop firm, right? I worked for a prop firm as a trader back in my early 20s, and they took 5%. They took 5% of what I made as a day trader. When I worked for, other companies, typically they would take like a finder's fee, right? But OnlyFans, not a bad gig, not a bad gig, making 20% revenue on basically each female. And of course, because all you have to do is basically make a profile, it actually makes it real easy to have this huge number of women that are basically working under you. You don't have to do necessarily much for them in terms of giving them, like a salary or any sort of medical benefits, days off, etc. And of course, you get to reap the results. Actually, quite ingenious. Basically being the modern day pimp for a lot of these women. And of course, many women don't even realize it.
Other people will take from you. And it's great because, then you don't have to deal with making your own website and deal with credit card processors. Like they do that whole thing. And you can be paid out weekly, monthly, whatever. OnlyFans is basically like a platform, kind of like Instagram or Twitter, but people have to pay in order to see. And so you want to make the content extra exclusive and special because there needs to be a reason for why people want to subscribe to see it.
And it's interesting, the kind of logic that she utilizes, that it's just like Instagram, it's just like Facebook, it's just like whatever sort of social media, except that basically you're selling nudes and nude videos of yourself.
So the cool thing about OnlyFans is that your fans can subscribe to your feed, and once they subscribe, they can see all the special content that you've posted, but then they can also message you. So, if someone asks you, why should I get your OnlyFans? You could say, you can see my extra content and you can talk to me, right? Like I have all these followers on Instagram and there's no way I'd be able to talk to all of them, but if you subscribe to my OnlyFans, then, this is a special thing that you get from me, is you get to interact with me and engage with me. And that's why it's worth getting. Before I get into more of the tips and tricks of OnlyFans, if you've been thinking about creating content online and specifically adult content, that's great. Make sure you think about it a lot because it's forever. Even if you decide to do it for one day, that stuff will be out there because you cannot control your stuff getting stolen. It's out there, and so you have to grapple with that and realize that like it's out there. And OnlyFans does have this feature where you can like block certain locations from viewing your page. So if you don't want people from your hometown to find out that you have an OnlyFans, then you can use that feature. I don't use it. I'm kind of like, my stuff's everywhere. So.
And I actually thought that was pretty interesting, that you can basically, if you're slowing it up in your, you don't want basically your neighbors, maybe you work, there's been women who've done like teaching or work like as an EMS worker or work in many of these different fields. And of course, maybe you don't want people within your region finding out and seeing your content. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. Of course, it just goes to show, I guess it's under the whole privacy feature.
So whatever. But also, if you are thinking about using OnlyFans, I have a referral link in the description. You can click it and you can sign up using my link. And if you do sign up,
and that's why I said it's basically like a little mini pyramid scheme. And as women start to get older, of course, for most of these women, this is not going to be a lifelong career. This is typically when they're young and they're in their early 20s for most of these women. And of course, as they start to age out, the way that they're still able to utilize the platform is through the passive income of the people who they've in essence brought in underneath them. And so as they get older, I've seen like another video from another, looked like she was probably like 28, maybe 30-year-old woman who had another video talking about this exact same thing. And she kind of showed how the whole pyramid scheme kind of works, where you're under her, and then you can kind of get people to come in under you, and so eventually it all basically feeds money to the top. So you have all of these employees basically at the bottom, and then you're just basically feeding money from a lot of these types of men that are basically interested in this sort of content, and of course it all feeds individuals at the top.
You have a profile and you use my link, then you can also email me and let me know, and I will, try to give you some more feedback in my email about the questions you have. You can email me with those sort of questions at shop@lenontheplug.com, and I'll try to guide you through the questions that you might have.
All right, we're gonna jump ahead.
There's so much to say, I don't know what to say. A few things that someone will see before they subscribe, and so those things are really important in terms of how you decide that they're going to.
And a lot of this information is just super generic.
That will want to make somebody subscribe. Don't put like some fun, funky, like art of some sort that has nothing to do with you, unless your page is about art and it's your art. Try to put a little bit of what they might see if they continue to subscribe.
Gotta give them a little taste.
There's also a section that you can click that says show more, and it's like a little place for you to write your description, like kind of like a bio. That's one of the only things that they can see before they subscribe. So I like to put a little bit of what someone might get if they use my OnlyFans. Things like chatting with me, daily messages, weekly uploads to my feed, what types of content I put out. So I have a description. I do boy-girl content, girl-girl content, solo content, stuff like that.
So what she refers to as content is just basically sex with different individuals, which is why they refer to it as content instead of PORN, whether it's with a boy or with a girl or with objects, etc. And then of course she later on in the video she talks a little bit about like what she offers, which is more like the online girlfriend experience, which I imagine is for probably either young people or individuals who have like no experience when it comes to women. She even says
know what they're getting in order to want to subscribe. So I would say try to be as.
She even offers, in the video she makes mention that she even offers like clothing. She'll send people like her bra or her underwear for a price. And this is basically what the government is basically pushing, which is why you have individuals like AOC that are basically thumbs upping this sort of content, because this is the sort of depravity that they want to push for many American women or any westernized women. And of course, this goes all into the whole, female liberation and, my body, my choice, especially things like, for example, the right to kill your unborn child, which many of these women unfortunately experience. But I think it's like 25% of all women at some point have aborted a child. And then of course, you have like 25% of all women that have some sort of a sexually transmitted disease. And so this is basically the norm that you'll find in westernized countries. Eventually countries like, countries and civilizations like this collapse. Basically America is the modern day Rome, and its collapse is inevitable.
Descriptive as possible without being confusing. The other thing that you want to decide is how much your monthly subscription is going to be. My monthly subscription is $19.99. I often on sale for $9.99 because I tend to get more subscriptions when something's on sale. So I kind of just like, when there's the
I must have missed
that
part before.
Valentine's Day, Christmas, whatever, I put my things on sale. I like putting things on sale. I would rather have more subscribers for a cheaper price than less subscribers for a higher price. But that's just going to depend on what you want to do, because I have a lot of followers. I can make it really cheap and get a ton of subscribers. But if you want to make yours higher because you don't think you're going to get so many people, you can do that too. It's kind of up to you, and you can change your price every single day. And you can offer promotions, and you can offer promotions to specific people.
So when you when you meet a woman and she says, she's got an online business or she's an entrepreneur, you might have to ask a little bit more in depth in terms of the questions about what kind of entrepreneur that she is.
The lowest price that your subscription could be is $5. So $5 is the minimum that someone could pay to subscribe, and you get 20% of that, so you get $4. And then you can also charge people for extra things in the messages, or to have them unlock videos in the messages. Basically, there's a feature that OnlyFans has, which is great, is you can send out mass videos to everyone who is following your page, and that video will have a price in order to get unlocked. And the minimum price is $3. You can send photo set, you can send videos, anything that you want. But also, you could just make one video and send it to one person who requested it, and then make it $100. Let's say it's a custom video and they wanted something specific.
And this basically must be the appeal to sites like this, where for men who maybe couldn't get women like this just basically in the field, to get your own personalized porn video, I imagine, is appealing to some individuals. And of course, this by nature, because women are basically drawing from large pools of inexperienced men. And of course, it doesn't really cost all that much. As she said, it might be $5, it might be $3. And of course, for some women, this will be quite lucrative. And of course, I couldn't imagine dating somebody like this. But as they say, there's somebody for everybody. But the thing is that in America, more than likely, more women that you go out with, that you interact with, are going to be very similar to this. They might be young women, especially if they're very attractive. Most of their early years are going to be monetized. And so you're going to come across individuals like this that you just might think are just like your normal, average, run-of-the-mill, neighborhood woman. I mean, she's not all that pretty. I mean, she's a very average looking female. And yet someone like this can make a good money off of sites like OnlyFans, which of course then gives an air of arrogance to the requirements that they need a man in their life. And of course, later on in their life, they end up alone and lonely, wondering where have all the good men gone, as CGA would said. But I'm going to leave this here. This is basically where dating in the West is going, which is why I don't even bother anymore dating in the West, because overwhelmingly this is what you're going to come across: women with this sort of mentality, monetized from their youth on. And of course, they will spend most of their life overwhelmingly alone.